Hi there everybody, and welcome back to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage YouTube channel. I thought it would be useful to show you all something that is an option for you if you ever have a Singer Slant-O-Matic. This applies to the Singer 301 or Singer 301A, the Singer 401A, the Singer 404 and 403. And these machines all have a similar bobbin winder design. Now, I mentioned to you all before that with analog machines from the vintage era, they have a setup for their bobbin winders where they are, in theory, supposed to stop when the level of the thread that is on your bobbin gets to the edge of the rim of your bobbin, and that's important. Now, modern machines may be more digitally accurate. However, whenever you wind a bobbin on a vintage machine, you should always watch it because these devices are not digitally accurate, right? So I have been testing a bobbin winder on this machine that belongs to a customer, and as I've been testing the bobbin winder, you'll notice that the bobbin is continuing to fill. It's pretty much there at its max. So what can you do if your bobbin, I can keep winding this and it may start to add. If it keeps adding thread to the bobbin beyond the rim, that's a problem because when you go to put it into your bobbin case is going to be confused because your bobbin is not designed to hold more thread than where the rim is. And we're about at the top. So I wanted to show you something. You may or may not have ever noticed that there is you may have noticed this. This, of course, is a piece of steel that is supposed to push against the bobbin so that when it's loaded at a certain point, it will push away on its own, automatic. They used that word a lot in the 50s, and it will stop. However, you may need to adjust it. And because the folks at Singer back in the day thought of, if not everything, almost everything, they actually have an adjustable or adjustability to this piece right here. So what am I going to do? I'm going to turn this screw. You don't have to take it all the way out, and I'm going to push down. What does that do? As you push down, that it's sort of protruding out us like a triangle. What that's going to do is it's going to push against the bobbin sooner, in theory. Okay, so we'll just push it down, and then I'm going to just snug that screw. Once it's snug, it's tight enough. Don't go crazy. Let's get a little bit of lint filth or whatever that is. Okay, so I'm going to push this back up. Let's see if that in fact works. Oh, okay, it's already, right? It's already not wanting it's not spinning the wheel. It has pushed it away, right? So we'll do it again, okay, and I'll show you the winding of the bobbin, and we'll just put another bobbin on there because, as I said, if you look at this bobbin, if I hold it properly, notice how full that is. And if we turn it up this way, look at the edges of the bobbin, the rim. You really don't want, in fact, you could probably do with a little bit less thread on there. You could also do a little bit better focus. There we go. Make sure that your thread is not extending, right? If you start to have an arch where it's going past the edge of that rim, that is going to create problems, and you do not want that. So remember, when you see your bobbin filling up, you need to stop it, and if it doesn't stop on its own, then you can override it and simply pull this away. This is true with quite a few vintage machines. It's not unique to Singers or this Singer model. Again, sometimes they work great. Sometimes your bobbin automatic stopper will stop when you think it really should add more thread. Remember, as an analog device, you can fine-tune it as best you can, and then you work with it. These machines were designed for human beings to work with them. It is not intelligent, artificially or otherwise. Okay? And that is one of the reasons they are still restorable and still usable today. So if I'm going to get another bobbin, and we will wind yet another bobbin with white thread, and let's see if the adjustment that I made works. I make no promises, so let's find out. Okay, and if you've never wound a bobbin on a Singer Slant-O-Matic, in this case the 401, we'll just go ahead and demonstrate that. Why not? So I'm going to put my thread here on this spool pin. With some vintage machines you have to use the spool pin above, but not on this. Singer went spared no expense, and they didn't. This was one of the most expensive machines you could buy from Singer, 1957, 56, 57. Okay, I'm going to put my spool of thread on the spool pin, and I'm going to have my thread coming over. I want to see it on this side. I'm going to come underneath that thread guide, get my fat hands out of the way, and again, I have already turned my clutch knob just slightly toward me, and so when I turn the hand wheel, the needle does not move. And I'm going to install my bobbin onto the winder shaft here. Now, this one does not use, you've seen on some of the earlier vintage machines, you've seen the little pin that has to line up with a hole. Now, this machine, this bobbin, I should say, it has that little hole because you can use this is, of course, the Class 66 bobbin. And if you use it on a Singer 66, Singer 99, Singer, I believe the 185K still had that. I'll have to go back and check. But this machine uses, there is a spring built in to the shaft. And so you simply slip on your bobbin, and the bobbin will, it should hold if your built-in spring is working. This one seems to be working fine. Okay. Now, as with all bobbin winding, you're going to take your thread and you are going to start here at the center of your bobbin and find a hole on the left side. You're going to come through. You have plenty of holes on many of your Class 66 bobbin, and I'm simply going to take that thread. I'm going to hold it. You don't have to hold it tight, but just hold on to it, just taut, I think is the best way. Now, what am I going to do? I'm going to flip this up, and before I use my foot pedal, I'm going to turn it. You can use the foot pedal, but I like to do this slowly. What am I doing? I'm basically getting a few wraps of the thread around the bobbin. See if we can get a bit more of a close-up for you. Okay, so you can see the thread has already gone around the bobbin hub a few times, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut the thread tail. This is a good idea because, again, thread tails can get into places you do not want them. Thread is little pieces of thread are little fugitives that get in your way and can cause a lot of problems. So now that I have done this, I'm going to very slowly and gently get the bobbin moving. I'm putting my foot on the foot pedal, and I'm going to start. And as I do, you can see the bobbin is feeding. Now let's see, it may not do this for us, but let's see if it turns off earlier than the last time. And I could go much faster than this, but I don't like that. I like a medium speed. If you go too fast, you're going to have a very tightly wound thread, and that can affect your stitches. So a medium speed, whatever, not too slow, not too fast. I use sound, honestly, because there's no digital readout here for us. Now let's see if, in fact, the bobbin will be not tossed off, if the bobbin winder lever will push away when the bobbin is full. If it does not, again, always watch your bobbins. Now it's starting to get more resistance, right? I have it, don't keep speeding up. I keep using the same amount of speed. Notice it's slowing. See the bobbin? The hand wheel is still moving, but the bobbin tire is barely moving because you can tell that the bobbin itself is spinning far more slowly than the hand wheel. And that means you have reached the end. Now it was still turning, but just barely. See, it's wanting to stop now. Okay, now let's take this bobbin off and we'll look at the difference it made. And I'm going to set these up in a place where they are easier to see than in my gorilla-sized hands here. I want you to see the very edge of these bobbins. because this is probably your best bet. Now look at this one. This is the first one I wound. Woo! This is the first one that I wound. Now they may not look very different at first. The one on the right is before I adjusted the bobbin winder stopper. I call it the brake. Now let's zoom in, see if this is helpful to notice. If you look closely, what you will see is that the level of the thread, right, that top surface is closer to the edge of the rim on this one on the right than it is on the left, by just barely, okay? This is better. You know, you can push it to the limit if you want to right here. This bobbin will probably work okay, but you're really on the edge, and if you go past the edge, you might get away with it in your bobbin case, but if your machine does not want to stitch, well, no, it's the user, okay? So remember, you saw the bobbin begin to stop, and I have moved. If you look at the adjustment I made, again, you have a slot here. I slid this down, and then I moved it down. So again, your machine may vary for whatever reason. Keep in mind that when you're looking to use any kind of analog device, it requires you, and eventually if you use the machine enough, you will understand its ways and it'll understand you, and you'll get along great. But many of us are, we have been conditioned for things to do things automatically, right? We have electronic and smart toasters, right? So with an analog device, just remember that they were created for people who would learn how to use the device, and there are more manual procedures, but there's nothing wrong with that. They're not really time consuming per se, and you know, what do you get in return? You get a level of quality that no one, at least in domestic home sewing machines, produces anymore. And I know there are some lovely new machines out there. Some of you own them and you enjoy them, and I think that's wonderful. But I do have a bias toward the vintage models, and there I said it. So anyway, I hope this was helpful for all of you. If you've ever wound a bobbin and then you put it in your machine, it didn't work, it's like, unless the bobbin is bent, it's usually because it's overfilled with too much thread. I appreciate all of you watching this channel, and we will see you next time.